In the heart of Cambodia, buried beneath centuries of vines and silence, lies something that defies explanation. A city, carved not with tools, but with devotion, raised not in years, but across lifetimes. A city of stone so vast, it stretches over 400 acres, larger than modern-day Paris. And yet, for hundreds of years, no one knew it was there. When 19th century French explorers hacked through the dense jungle and stepped into the forgotten ruins, they were stunned. Towering spires pierced the sky like spears of stone. Walls danced with carvings of celestial dancers. Giant lotus-shaped towers loomed over a silent moat. But one detail haunted them. There were no bones, no ashes, no remains, no tools, no signs of life or death. A city built for the gods, but abandoned by men. Who built it? Why did they leave? And how did something this massive simply disappear from history? Was Angkor Wat a temple, a kingdom, a cosmic gateway, or something else entirely? This is not just a ruin. This is a mystery etched in stone, a monument to a forgotten empire, and perhaps a message from the past that still waits to be understood. In this documentary, we travel deep into the past to unearth the truth behind the world's largest religious monument, to decode the myths, the legends, and the chilling silence that surrounds Angkor Wat. Because the greatest question isn't how it was built, it's why no one ever stayed. Long before Angkor Wat was stone, it was an idea born in the Khmer Empire, a civilization that once ruled over much of Southeast Asia. At its height, it stretched across present-day Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam, a vast, powerful, and deeply spiritual realm that rose in the 9th century and reigned for over 600 years. Its kings weren't just rulers. They were Devarajas, god kings, seen as earthly embodiments of the divine. And when a god king dreamt of building a monument to eternity, Angkor Wat was born. It was the early 12th century. The throne belonged to King Suryavarman II, a visionary ruler and fierce military strategist. He had already conquered rival kingdoms, unified his people, and declared himself the chosen one of Vishnu, the Hindu god of preservation. So he ordered the construction of something the world had never seen, a temple that would reflect the heavens, a palace for the gods, crafted from sandstone and laterite, a structure so immense it required tens of thousands of workers, engineers, monks, and artisans, over decades of labor. This was not just a temple, this was cosmic architecture, but power rarely stays unchallenged. In 1177, decades after Suryavarman's death, invaders from the kingdom of Champa sailed up the Mekong and launched a surprise attack on Angkor. The city was sacked, temples were defiled, the divine capital desecrated. But from ruin rose a new king. His name was Jayavarman VII, and he would become the most celebrated Khmer ruler of all time. Unlike Suryavarman, Jayavarman was a devout buildings. Muhat's writings electrified Europe. Scholars, adventurers, and eventually colonial administrators began flocking to Angkor. What had been forgotten was now reintroduced through Western eyes. The École Française d'Extrême-Orient, a French archaeological institution, began mapping, photographing, and slowly restoring the site in the early 20th century. Without cranes, concrete, or computers. Angkor Wat is carved in stone, but it was built in blood, sweat, and belief. To understand its creation, we must meet the people who gave it shape, and it begins with one man, Suryavarman II, king, warrior, visionary, a man who, at the turn of the 12th century, claimed the Khmer throne not just by blood, but by conquest. He fought rivals, crushed rebellions, and unified the empire. But he wasn't content with land or armies. He wanted immortality. His devotion lay with Vishnu, the Hindu god of preservation. And so, he ordered something audacious, a temple unlike any built before. Not dedicated to Shiva, as was custom, but to Vishnu. Not facing east, but west, toward the setting sun, symbol of death and transcendence. It would be his spiritual fortress and his mausoleum. Picture it, a humid dawn, the smell of wet earth and sweat. Thousands of workers, stonecutters, architects, elephants hauling slabs through mud. A boy no older than 14 carries a torch. Beside him, a stonecutter carves the curve of Vishnu's chariot, fingers raw, palms bleeding. Suddenly, footsteps. He turns. Behind him, the king, draped in gold, eyes sharp. The cutter bows, trembling. And Suryavarman speaks, not in anger, but with reverence. Let the gods live forever in stone. He walks on. The cutter returns to his task. And so it went, day after day, for decades. Some say over 300,000 laborers worked on Angkor Wat during its construction. Among them, engineers who mastered water flow and celestial alignments, priests and astrologers who mapped the stars to guide the layout, slaves and conscripts, many never named, whose footprints are still pressed into temple stones. And behind the silence, an entire spiritual machine operated. As the temple rose, Vedic rituals echoed through its halls. Sacrifices, mantras, offerings to Vishnu, carried by monks in saffron robes. But time moves, belief evolves. By the 13th century, the drums of Buddhism grew louder. Monks in orange took residence. The temple of Vishnu became a Buddhist sanctuary. Idols of Buddha appeared beside Hindu carvings. New prayers filled old walls. But rather than destruction, there was continuity. Angkor Wat remained sacred because its stone held faith, not just form. And walking those stone corridors were figures so central, they're carved into nearly every wall. The apsaras, celestial dancers, barefoot, adorned in crowns and jewelry, each one unique, over 1,800 of them. Their fingers curve in eternal dance. Their smiles, faint, knowing. Who were they? Myth says they were divine, born of the heavens. But some scholars believe they were inspired by royal court dancers, women of status, trained in sacred movement, keepers of tradition, performers of rituals only kings were allowed to witness. In them, we glimpse a Khmer world where dance was worship, where movement was prayer, where the spiritual wasn't just spoken, it was sung, chiseled, lived. Angkor Wat wasn't built by bricks alone. It was built by kings and visionaries, yes, but also by anonymous hands. Silent monks, artists lost to time, and women frozen in dance. Each left a mark, not just in stone, but in the soul of a civilization. In the next chapter, the stone remembers again, as we unravel the events that unfolded here, moments of bloodshed, betrayal, and divine transformation. Because Angkor Wat wasn't just built for history, it became part of it. Angkor Wat, a temple of peace, has witnessed centuries of war. For beneath the sandstone serenity lies a battlefield, etched in politics, blood, and spiritual upheaval. The first great tremor came during the reign of Suryavarman II. Though he was a devout follower of Vishnu, he was also a warrior king. His ambitions stretched beyond borders. And across the sea, to the east, lay a rival kingdom, Champa, a seafaring, fiercely independent state occupying what is now central and southern Vietnam. Suryavarman launched multiple military campaigns against the Cham. Some ended in shaky alliances, others in blood. But it was after his death that the consequences of these campaigns would come crashing back upon Angkor. In the year 1177, Cham warriors sailed up the Mekong River and struck Angkor like lightning. They breached the city, pillaged the temples, and for the first time in centuries, the empire's heart was shattered. It was one of the darkest moments in Khmer history. But out of this ruin rose a savior, a man whose name would become legend, Jayavarman VII. He was not just a king, he was a reformer, a builder, a visionary. And unlike his predecessors, he was a devoted Mahayana Buddhist. He expelled the Cham invaders, and then did something extraordinary. He rebuilt Angkor, bigger, grander, spiritually transformed. He founded Angkor Thom, the great city just north of Angkor Wat. At its center stood the Bayon Temple, with its iconic towers adorned with serene, smiling faces. Perhaps his own image merged with that of the Buddha. Hospitals, roads, rest houses, temples. He turned his empire into a living expression of compassion and cosmic order. But in doing so, he also ushered in a new era of religion. Angkor, once a citadel of Vishnu worship, now embraced Mahayana Buddhism. Temples were repurposed, new icons installed. The divine landscape evolved. And over time, as Mahayana faded, Theravada Buddhism, the school still dominant in Cambodia today, took root. Angkor Wat adapted. The gods changed, but the temple endured. Centuries passed, and the once glorious Khmer Empire slowly crumbled, battered by invasions, weakened by internal strife, and left behind by shifting trade routes. By the 15th century, Angkor was largely abandoned. The capital moved south, the jungle crept in, and the temple that once ruled the heavens fell silent. But it was never truly forgotten. Locals still came to pray, monks still walked its halls. Legends whispered that gods once lived there. Then came the French colonial era. In the mid-19th century, European explorers, led by Henri Mouhot, discovered Angkor for the West. Mouhot's journals described a lost city rivaling those of Egypt and Greece. The world was stunned. Colonial authorities seized upon Angkor Wat as a symbol, a jewel of Indochina, a testament to their civilizing mission. Restoration began, some careful, some reckless. Temples were cleared, photographed, cataloged. And for Cambodia, it became something more. A beacon, a symbol of national pride, identity, and resistance. Then came the Khmer Rouge. In the 1970s, Cambodia fell into darkness. A brutal regime led by Pol Pot declared war on history itself. Temples were looted, monks were murdered, records burned. And yet, through civil war and genocide, Angkor Wat survived. Perhaps untouched because of its spiritual sanctity, perhaps because even tyrants feared what it represented. In a land soaked with tragedy, it remained standing, a silent witness to humanity's worst and best. Today, the temple draws millions. Pilgrims, tourists, historians, each seeking something: wonder, peace, or perhaps understanding. Because within these stones lies more than religion or empire. It's a chronicle of transformation, of fall and rise, of war and healing. Angkor Wat has lived through conquest, collapse, colonization, and catastrophe, but it still stands, not just as a monument of stone, but as a memory of what we once were, and a question of what we still might become. Next, we walk into the shadows, where myth and memory blur, and the deepest secrets of Angkor still whisper. It stands in silence, but speaks in riddles. Angkor Wat is a masterpiece that feels almost too perfect, too precise, too aligned, too unexplained. And perhaps that's why, from the moment it was rediscovered, it has stirred legends, myths, and conspiracies that refuse to rest. One tale, whispered for generations, says the temple was not built by humans at all. According to Khmer folklore, Angkor Wat was built in a single night, not by kings or slaves, but by divine architects. Some say it was Indra, the king of the gods, who sent his army of celestial beings to construct it before sunrise, so that his son would have a palace on earth. And when dawn broke, the gods vanished, leaving behind their perfect creation. Of course, modern historians dismiss this as myth. But then comes the question that even science struggles to answer. Where are the records? No inscriptions, no blueprints, no construction journals. We know more about how the pyramids were built than how Angkor Wat rose from the earth. Was this knowledge deliberately erased, or was it never recorded in the first place? And there's more. Many researchers believe Angkor Wat may have been more than just a temple. Its layout aligns with celestial events. Each of its 5 towers is said to mirror the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the center of the universe in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology. Its westward orientation, rare for Hindu temples, aligns it with death, transition, and the setting sun. Some believe it functioned as an astronomical observatory, mapping the solstices, the equinoxes, and even planetary movements. Angkor Wat may have been a calendar written in stone. Others go further. Overlay the layout of Angkor's temples with a star chart, and you get something strange. The constellation Draco, the celestial serpent, perfectly aligns with temple placements in the Angkor region. Coincidence or cosmic intent? And then there's the silence of the dead. Despite centuries of religious devotion, wars, and royal processions, Angkor Wat reveals no major burial sites, no royal tombs, no ash pits, no mass graves of the workers who built it. Where are the bodies? Some believe they were cremated, lost to time. Others wonder, were they never buried here at all? But the most persistent legend? That beneath the temple, something is hidden, a treasure, a relic, a secret. Tales speak of underground chambers, sealed passages, and a golden serpent guarding something sacred. Archaeologists have discovered restricted tunnels and layers below the main galleries, but much remains unexplored. Modern technology like lidar scanning has revealed entire hidden cities buried beneath the Cambodian jungle. Thousands of structures, forgotten roads, temples overtaken by roots. Is Angkor Wat just the surface? Could there be an even larger lost metropolis waiting underground? Some say yes. Others go even further, into the realm of alien theories. Certain fringe researchers point to the perfect measurements, the astronomical alignment, the lack of records, and ask, could this have been designed with knowledge beyond human comprehension? They draw comparisons to Egypt, to Teotihuacan, to Puma Punku, ancient power sites connected, they claim, by energy lines across the Earth. Of course, there is no proof, no spacecraft, no hieroglyph of an alien, but the mystery remains compelling, because sometimes the absence of answers is more powerful than the presence of facts. And perhaps that's the point. Angkor Wat was never meant to be fully understood. It was built to awe, to endure, to outlive even its creators. A temple, a map, a monument, or maybe a message, carved not for us, but for eternity. In the next chapter, we'll leave the myths behind and see how this once-forgotten wonder shaped culture far beyond Cambodia, in art, in identity, and in the global imagination. Angkor Wat was once a symbol of divine kingship. Now it's the soul of a nation. It has stood through wars, regimes, and rebirths. And yet, across nearly 1,000 years, its influence has never faded. Look closely. You'll find Angkor Wat on Cambodia's flag, the only country in the world with a monument at its center. It's printed on Cambodian currency. It's embedded in government seals, airline logos, and school emblems. To the Cambodian people, Angkor Wat isn't just a ruin. It's a reminder of what was lost and what still stands. Its design, from lotus-shaped towers to corbelled arches, shaped Khmer architecture for centuries. Temples like Bayon, Bantayai Shrey, and Preah Khan all echo Angkor Wat's influence. Even modern Buddhist pagodas throughout Southeast Asia borrow its proportions, carvings, and spiritual blueprint. And beyond Cambodia, Angkor Wat has become a spiritual beacon. Each year, thousands of monks, pilgrims, and seekers journey to its towers, not just to admire the stone, but to meditate in its silence. For Buddhists, it is sacred. For Hindus, it is revered. For travelers, it's a rite of passage. From sunrise reflections to incense-filled shrines, Angkor Wat offers something no guidebook can explain. Stillness, wonder, perspective. But its influence doesn't end at religion. In the modern world, Angkor Wat has become an icon of global imagination. It's appeared in films like Tomb Raider, where Angelina Jolie's Lara Croft ran through the roots and ruins of Taprom, introducing millions to the magic of Angkor. Video games, anime, and graphic novels have recreated its corridors. Documentaries across Netflix, BBC, and History Channel have explored its secrets. Angkor Wat is no longer just Cambodia's. It belongs to the world. But its recognition took time. In 1992, UNESCO declared Angkor a World Heritage Site. It wasn't just a badge of honor. It was a lifeline. Preservation efforts began. International experts joined local teams. And funding poured in to restore what centuries had worn down. Today, Angkor Wat is part of what UNESCO calls the living heritage of humanity. It's a site where the past is not just studied, but felt. Its carvings influence artists. Its stories inspire novels. Its image stirs patriotism, poetry, and pilgrimage. Angkor Wat is no longer just a relic. It's a mirror, reflecting the resilience of a people, the reach of a culture, and the power of a dream carved in stone. And yet, behind this cultural icon lies a question of why here? Why this land? In the next chapter, we journey into the geography and discover why the builders chose this sacred ground in the heart of the jungle. For centuries, it seemed like a strange choice. A massive temple city, carved from stone, hidden deep within the Cambodian jungle. Why build something so monumental here? But the answer, like everything in Angkor, lies in brilliance masked as mystery. Angkor Wat is nestled in the Siem Reap Basin, a vast, fertile plain at the heart of Cambodia. And beneath its spiritual surface was an empire of water, fed by the powerful Tonle Sap Lake, the largest freshwater body in Southeast Asia. This basin became the beating heart of the Khmer Empire. The lake expands six-fold during the rainy season, turning nearby lands into nutrient-rich floodplains. This seasonal rhythm gave the Khmer something rare: food security, 3 rice harvests a year, an abundance of fish, trade routes, and water for crops. The Khmer mastered hydraulic engineering, building an intricate network of canals, reservoirs, and moats, not just for agriculture, but for power. Water was wealth. Water was defense. And Angkor Wat, it was surrounded by it. The moat wasn't just symbolic. It served as a protective barrier, repelling enemies and stabilizing the temple's foundation. The earth around Angkor is soft and sandy, but the moat helped prevent collapse by balancing groundwater pressure beneath the structure. Even in engineering, the Khmer thought ahead. Then there was its position. Angkor sat at the crossroads of the Khmer Empire's most critical zones, perfect for controlling trade routes between China, India, and the rest of Southeast Asia. The empire's influence flowed like its rivers, outward in all directions. And Angkor Wat stood at the center, a cosmic axis of both religion and realpolitik. But over time, those same jungles that once hid Angkor from invaders would hide it from everyone. As the empire collapsed, canals filled with silt, roads were swallowed by vines. Tonle Sap shifted its patterns. Trade moved south, and Angkor was left behind. Its strategic brilliance became part of its mystique, a city the world forgot, because nature decided to remember. For centuries, Angkor Wat lay hidden in plain sight, cradled by forests, protected by moats, and embraced by silence. Today, that location is no longer a mystery. It's a blessing. Angkor's jungle home, once its shroud, now offers serenity. Its proximity to Tonle Sap still defines the culture of Siem Reap, now a vibrant city fueled by tourism, heritage, and the sacred water that once fed an empire. Because even as empires fall, geography remembers. And Angkor Wat still stands, not just because of what it was, but because of where it is. Next, we step into the present to see how centuries-old stone is being saved by modern science, restoration, and resilience. For centuries, Angkor Wat was abandoned, but never forgotten. Stone by stone, root by root, the jungle claimed it. But the soul of the temple endured, waiting for rediscovery. That moment came in the 19th century, when European explorers, led by the Frenchman Henri Mouhot, reintroduced Angkor Wat to the world. And what followed was both awe-inspiring and controversial. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, French colonial archaeologists began the first formal restoration efforts. They cleared brush, stabilized towers, rebuilt fallen galleries. They called it anastylosis, reassembling ruins using original stones wherever possible. But it wasn't perfect. Some restorations were rushed. Others altered the site's spiritual essence. Yet, without them, much might have been lost forever. Then came a new threat, far worse than weather or time. In the 1970s, Cambodia fell to the Khmer Rouge. As the regime unleashed genocide and destruction, Angkor Wat stood on the edge of annihilation. Temples were looted, artifacts vanished into black markets. Historical sites were left untended, ghosts under the guns. Yet somehow, Angkor Wat survived. Some say even the regime feared desecrating it. Others say it was forgotten amidst chaos. Whatever the reason, its towers still stood when peace returned. And with peace came protection. In 1992, UNESCO declared Angkor a World Heritage Site, and the real rescue mission began. Local and international teams, including the Apsara Authority, began restoring what time and war had weathered. Stone by stone, crack by crack, they mapped every wall, every carving, preserving not just the structure, but the stories carved into it. And now, preservation has entered a new era. Laser scanning, 3D modeling, and even AI are now being used to monitor Angkor's health. High-resolution digital maps detect shifts in structure. Moisture sensors track erosion. AI algorithms predict where collapse might occur before it happens. But even as technology advances, another challenge grows taller than any tower: tourism. Today, Angkor Wat welcomes over 2 million visitors a year. That's 5,000 plus footsteps an hour. Each one wears down the ancient stone, bit by bit. Restorers must walk a tightrope between sharing history and protecting it. So new paths are being laid, guided tours are limited, and temple access is rotated to give vulnerable sections rest. But the most powerful tool of all isn't digital, it's local stewardship. Cambodian archaeologists, historians, and villagers have become guardians of Angkor's legacy. School programs teach children the history their grandparents were once forbidden to speak. Local monks maintain temple rituals. Communities are involved in heritage decisions, because preservation isn't just about stones, it's about identity. It's about passing something sacred to those not yet born. And in the face of climate change, rising humidity, and over-tourism, the future of Angkor Wat depends on this balance: modern science, ancient reverence, and human responsibility. Because a temple this powerful must not just be remembered, it must be protected. For Cambodia, for culture, for the world. Next, we step into the modern day. Not as historians, but as travelers. Let's walk through the gates of Angkor Wat, as if we were there now. It begins before dawn. You arrive in darkness, the air still thick with jungle mist. And in front of you, a silhouette. Majestic, timeless, Angkor Wat. Hundreds of others stand around you in hushed awe. Camera lenses click softly. Tour guides whisper in dozens of languages. Then, the towers ignite in light, as if the sun itself is bowing to a kingdom long gone. This is sunrise at Angkor Wat, one of the most photographed, most spiritual moments a traveler can witness. And it's just the beginning. Step through the sandstone causeway. You enter the outer galleries, carved with epic bas-reliefs that wrap around the temple. Here, gods battle demons in the churning of the ocean of milk. Soldiers march, celestial dancers twirl. Every stone is alive with story. Then comes the Hall of Echoes, a chamber where a single clap seems to echo for eternity. Now, climb the central tower, steep, narrow, sacred. Each step takes you closer to the sky, and to the gods this temple once honored. At the top, you look down. Below, perfect symmetry. Beyond, endless jungle. And for a moment, time stops. Don't miss the Apsara carvings. Over 1,800 celestial dancers, each one unique, with different hairstyles, expressions, and gestures. Some say their eyes follow you as you walk. But Angkor Wat is just one piece of a greater puzzle. Next door lies Angkor Thom, the great city. At its heart, Bayon Temple, where 200 massive stone faces smile in silence. Then, visit Ta Prohm, the jungle temple. Here, nature and architecture wrestle in beautiful decay. Towering trees split the walls. Roots pour down like waterfalls of wood. It feels like the temple is breathing. This is the spot where Tomb Raider was filmed, but its energy goes far beyond cinema. Now, pause. Step away from the crowds. There are hidden ruins nearby, forgotten mini-temples where birds nest in the carvings. You might witness a monk ceremony, chants rising through incense smoke, or catch a sunset over the western gate, where gold and pink spill across the sky in silence. When should you go? The best months are December to February, dry, cool, and perfect for exploring. You'll need a ticket, a 1-day, 3-day, or week-long pass, depending on your wanderlust. Hire a local guide. They don't just explain the stones, they tell the stories behind them. In nearby Siem Reap, a modern traveler's haven awaits. Hotels from budget to luxury. Restaurants serving amak, lak lak, and fresh coconut water. markets, spas, and the Angkor National Museum, where ancient artifacts offer context to the magic you've seen. And when the day ends, sit by the riverside and realize something profound. You didn't just visit Angkor Wat, you became part of its story. In the next and final chapters, we reflect on everything Angkor Wat represents, not just in stone and history, but in spirit. Angkor Wat is many things: a temple, a time machine, a riddle written in stone. It is a place where the divine met the earthly, where kings dared to build forever, and where time, like water, tried to wash it all away. But it still stands. Not untouched, not unchanged, but unbroken. A monument not just to the greatness of civilization, but to its fragility. Angkor Wat reminds us that no empire is eternal, that even the grandest towers can fall silent, that even the loudest voices in history can be forgotten. And yet, it also teaches us that what truly matters endures. Not the bricks, but the belief, not just the carvings, but the culture behind them. Every worn step, every cracked relief, every tower reaching for the sky, it all tells a story of resilience, faith, and the human need to leave behind meaning. Angkor Wat isn't just Cambodia's past. It is humanity's reflection of what we can build, what we can lose, and what we can find again if we choose to look. As we leave this ancient city behind, we don't just carry its history, we carry its lesson, that even in silence, even in ruins, there is beauty, there is memory, there is something worth protecting. Next, one final question remains. Would you walk these ancient paths yourself? Now that you've walked these ancient halls, felt the sunlight rise over towers built for gods, heard the whispers of kings and monks echo through the stone, we ask you, would you walk beneath these ancient towers and feel the gaze of gods carved in stone? Would you trace the carvings with your fingers, not just to admire the art, but to feel the pulse of a forgotten empire